begin today's program with the rather uplifting news that Patrick Queen remains a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. I did confirm, following all of the proper protocol after OTAs, that Queen is still a member of the Steelers. And I'm confirming with you, this is still a really big deal. Probably one that didn't get its due at the time. Definitely one that isn't getting its due now, at least based on my ability to gauge these things. The other day after one of these OTAs, I headed over in the direction of where most, not all, but most of the inside linebackers sit. There's one wall that's near where TJ Watt's corner is. And it just so happened that Landon Roberts, who else, would be carrying on a little bit of conversation. And I asked politely if I could interject for a moment and introduce myself to Queen, to which Roberts, who recalled a lot of the fun interactions that we had last season when it was him, Cole Holcomb, and Quan Alexander, and those guys really becoming a thing unto themselves, was kind enough to do that for me. He introduced me to Queen, and we ended up having a pretty nice little talk about how the inside linebackers last season came along before, everybody started dropping. But also, in turn, how much that meant to the franchise to see that position, even though it really only lasted about half a season, get fortified the way it was. How it became a point of pride, again, in Pittsburgh, to look at your inside linebackers and to say, hey, those are our guys. They're flying to the football. They're making things happen. Now, you guys will remember that heading into this offseason, I prioritized inside linebacker probably more than most people did. I was still on the offensive line bandwagon. I was pushing really hard, still am in a way, for the wide receiver position to get strengthened. But I really wanted to see an inside linebacker. And even though I accepted that there wasn't going to be one in the draft because I didn't think they'd land Peyton Wilson, I wanted to see that just continue to, well, look, long story short, they got Patrick Queen. Okay. I really don't know that there's enough people who are stoked about this. So I'm going to share with you a couple of people who are. One of them is Landon Roberts. Okay. He's really, really excited to have this guy. He believes that the Steelers can continue building off what they did as an inside linebacker group last year, and that probably goes double if Cole Holcomb can find a way to get all the way back from that gruesome knee injury. But when you look at Queen's addition alone, and I know there's been some knocks about how, well, he didn't become this or that until the Ravens got Roquan Smith, or what. I'm sure there's some truth to it. Roquan is a hell of a football player. But when I look at Queen's statistics, this is 4 years in Baltimore. I see his fourth year as a crescendo, as a pinnacle. I don't see it as an outlier. I'm going to read you some numbers here to back up this position. And this goes from 2020 to 2023, so you're going to hear four numbers in each case. Combined tackles, 106, 98, 117, 133. You feel that now? The crescendo? All right. Sacks, 3.0, 2.0, 5.0, 3.5. Now, obviously, the 5 is the biggest number from 2022, but there's a consistency in there. Interceptions, 1, 0, 2, 1. You get the idea. He didn't make some leap because Roquan was there stealing all the attention from opposing offenses. He was making plays in his own right to his own credit. Now, here's another Roquan stat. This one's his birth certificate. He's going to turn 25 years old in August, which means he's 24 now. He'll be 25 when he's playing. He's not even into the prime of his career. He can still be better. And part of this conversation that our little group had that day was about that, was about how much he expects to be challenging himself, not just to learn a new system, learn new teammates, and all of that fuss about how he's now on this side of the rivalry and everything, and you're going to hear a ton of it every time they play the Ravens. But just that he can become, he feels, a better football player. And that by having people like Roberts around, he's going to be that much more equipped to be able to take that next step. All of which is awesome. And look, while I respect, and I'm on this bandwagon myself, the excitement about Wilson, when you look at his college tape and everything else here, he's a rookie. It would be wonderful if the no ACL thing or whatever turns out to be no big deal, just as it's been for him for a long time, and he goes out there and makes some sort of massive impact as a kid. If that means displacing Roberts, so be it. But here again, I sense that more people were fired up about Wilson than they were about Queen. It's no. This individual can change the entire feel of this defense. When we come back, J1Q. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George. LGKG is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents people hurt in car accidents or who need help with workers' comp or medical malpractice. When the attorneys at LGKG make you a promise, they keep it. They've been keeping promises in our region for over 80 years. LGKG's been AV rated, the highest rating a law firm can receive, and they've been designated super lawyers. That's actually a thing for over 15 years. It's a rare combination. LGKG has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them by visiting lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. LGKG. Today's J1Q comes from Jason. It's a little broad, but it's a good one. He says, DK, did you see glimpses of the Arthur Smith offense, in particular the structure of it? And I know that it's just OTAs. I did, Jason. I just don't know that it's all that meaningful. Not just because it's OTAs, but because there wasn't that much of it that's shown. Okay, when you see players line up a certain way, and it looks very predictable with few exceptions, you know that they're just running stuff just to run stuff, just to get everybody kind of on the same page with the basics, with the foundation. When I hear Pat Freiermuth and other players in the room sharing with me that what they're most impressed with to date is that there's no tells in this offense. There's nothing that's giving away schemes the way Matt Canada did. And I know that that's not playing out in OTAs, then I can't really get that much of a sense for it. If that's the part that's standing out for them, and I can't see it with my own eyes yet, it's hard to give you much of a picture. I will say this. Well, a couple of things, actually. One is that Freiermuth is going to be a massive part of it. I shared that with you last week. And he's going to move all over the line of scrimmage, and he's going to run routes that he hadn't been allowed to run before. And that doesn't just mean whenever there's room across the middle. You can use tight ends in a lot of different ways, and you'd better believe 88's going to be used. That, from an X's and O's standpoint, really leaped out at me. Two is that they're not blowing smoke about the physical approach. Those of you who've been paying attention closely over the past couple of seasons might recall that everybody from Canada all the way up to Art Rooney would talk about being physical, about being punishing, about knocking teams backward and being tough looking on the bus and everything else here. And they didn't do it. They really didn't do it until the second half of each of the past two seasons. Why they didn't do it before that? No idea. Or what I should say is why they didn't try it before that? No idea. That will not be the case from everything that I'm understanding and absorbing in that room right now. These guys want it. The coordinator wants it. The head coach wants it. And yet again, you can go all the way up to the owner wanting it. It's being set up that way. And you know what? I'm going to throw a third thing in here because I've already referenced this once in this episode, but I'm going to do it again. There is a possibility that another wide receiver will be added. And if that were to be some, big name, big pedigree guy, then you're going to have to do some things to make sure that that player is involved. So I can understand taking the field for 3 weeks of OTAs and then mandatory minicamp and not exactly swimming through the entire playbook. That wide receiver alone would make such a difference. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow.